Hi, everybody. Welcome to Realize APJ. My name is Greg Clark. I'm the Worldwide Director of Product Management here inside the OpenText Voltage portfolio. Today's session is going to cover data security and the carbon-friendly effect. What we've seen over the last 18 months is a lot of organizations are really mobilizing around things like a climate pledge initiative, where organizations are really looking to get ahead of the Paris Accord of 2050 to reduce their carbon emissions to zero. Many organizations, and they're up to about 420 at this point, are really trying to do that much, much faster, right? Trying to get to net zero carbon emissions by 2040. So this is driving a lot of conversation, a lot of interest within our customer base. And I think as this session evolves, you'll see how data security and a lot of privacy enabling technologies can really help drive those type of ESG initiatives and help you show, whether it's your shareholders or your board of directors, how you're doing in terms of ESG and sustainability requirements. So when we talk to customers, it's really driven around data. When we talk to customers that are looking to really understand their information, be in a better posture for things like privacy by design, really starting to build classification methodologies, building data inventories. They're really looking to better understand their information so that they can comply with global regulations, so they can drive competitive advantage, really look for ways to innovate and grow their business. But another thing that is coming to the forefront is really around how understanding information through data discovery and data protection will really help organizations build a better awareness around their data, build a better awareness in terms of how that data is used, and then provide the ways and means in which that data can be managed and managed effectively. One of those things, or one of the outcomes that is ESG related, is as you start to better understand your information, as you better understand the value of your information, you can then start making some decisions around what to keep, around what you need to keep for how long, and then really looking for ways in terms of how you can take action against that data in a defensible manner so that you can reduce your storage, reduce your carbon emissions, but also ensure that the IT cost savings associated with these programs really start to drive these programs forward and start to show a benefit, an ESG benefit to the work you're doing inside these data-driven projects. Now, when we talk to customers around the Voltage portfolio, we typically talk about how understanding your information really helps you gain insight on what is most important, how to protect it, how to monitor it over time, and then over its life cycle, be prepared to govern it as it's needed inside the organization. When you start to overlay ESG mandates across this same paradigm, you start to really look at how you can better understand the value of data. Where is duplicate data, both structured and unstructured? How do you find ways in which that information can be minimized so that you can drive down costs, really support data lifecycle management, but also data minimization, which is important, I think, from a privacy standpoint, but also from an ESG standpoint. So data minimization really is a mandate that says you really should only be keeping what is most important to the business and only keep it for a prescribed period of time and be able to, whether it's to regulators, whether it's to your constituents, your customers, be able to respond back to those folks around what information you have, why you have it, and how long you're going to be holding on to it for what business purpose. So when we talk to customers around ESG, it's really about understanding their information, being able to tag it, categorize it, understand the value of it, so you can start making decisions to reduce that data and application sprawl that really start to drive cost efficiencies and lower carbon emissions and energy consumption. So let's talk about some of these numbers around ESG. So the social cost of carbon, if you look at it from the Biden administration, they've set a $51 social cost per metric ton of carbon. In Europe, it's roughly 56 euro. So to juxtapose it, the Trump administration had a figure, I think it was $2 or $3 a metric ton. So a bit of a shift in terms of how one president versus the other looks at these kind of mandates. But at the end of the day, when we look at the social cost of carbon and we look at data, and this is data that is on all the time, servers, switches, this is data that is active inside your organization, inside the cloud, inside your lead applications, inside your ecosystem of applications and data sets. Roughly 1 gig of data takes 5 kilowatt hours per year. So that's a very small amount. Expanding that to a terabyte, that's 5,000 kilowatt hours, right? So if you have a terabyte of data, it will consume 5,000 kilowatt hours per year. So there you have some metrics just to kind of consider and put in the back of your mind for a second. If you look at your utility costs, now they vary where you are globally, right? It could be as low as 15 cents. It could be as high in the 40-cent range in terms of cost per kilowatt hour. But if you really start to analyze, if I had 100 terabytes of data, and let's say I found that 40% of that was low value, no value data, I can really reduce not only the cost associated with managing that information, I can see a real social benefit to that data. Not only am I reducing the data center cooling, the ventilation, right, the general inefficiencies of the data center altogether, you can start seeing contributing internal rate of return on your projects that are ESG related, right? So this is something that can be proportionate, but you can start to be able to report back to the board, report back to shareholders on what efforts you're doing within IT that are contributing to those ESG programs. So what is the social cost of carbon? Well, like the short answer is it's really the associated economic impact of climate change. Now, this can be agricultural productivity, it could be rising sea levels, decline in human health, and labor productivity. So it is something that is documented across various, from an academic standpoint, it's well supported. You would have, or you may have in your region, a different social cost of carbon, but the calculations are the same, right? If we look at Australia as a really good example, so the social cost of carbon in Australia is 33 Australian dollars per metric ton. Their utility costs are about 29 cents from a business standpoint. Now, the power usage efficiency of a data center, this is standard across the board. Average is about 1.55. Now, you've got Amazon, you've got some really, really efficient data centers that are running at 1.1, 1.2. But there are ways in which you can really drive efficiencies. But from a data center standpoint, if you've got a data center that's not exactly modern, your number may be more like 1.8. Right, so there is a factor that you can build into this in terms of your data center efficiency. Now, the carbon tax in some regions can be as high as $74. I think in the Scandinavian countries, they actually add more and more on top of the social cost of carbon, and actually are starting to tax businesses and industries more effectively. Australia at this point they used to have one up until 2014, but they have a zero carbon tax at this point. But the reduced emissions, storage infrastructure consolidation, the social benefits of these types of strategies in this instance, if I had 250 terabytes of data inside of an Australian organization, a government department, a large telco, And I was able to really work hard on that data and reduce it by 30% as I've understood the value of it. I've looked for duplicate, rot, and out-of-date information. I can really derive a 3-year benefit across this project of over $500,000, Australian dollars. So there's, again, a contributing factor to your annual reports and the efforts you've taken around your ESG strategy, and how IT is really playing a key role in those strategies. So from an ESG benefits standpoint, there's a couple different ways you can look at this, right? You can see this as the same amount of effort we've done in this ESG project would be like eliminating 164 cars off the road or planting 30,000 plus trees. So just a way to juxtapose this and be able to illustrate it differently for you. So when we talk about privacy enhancing technology and more of this, and we can call it decarbonization efforts, data minimization will allow us to really help you understand your information, be able to understand where the high value data is, where the low value, no value data is, and how to take efforts to reduce that application and data sprawl. Data access governance will help understand where mismanaged or orphan data resides and be able to put better controls around it so it can be effectively managed more in a master data management standpoint. And data lifecycle management is really policy-based retention and disposition. So data sprawl doesn't really become an issue going forward. If you are keeping things based on policy and those policies have disposition schedules and agreed upon disposition schedules, the business is driving a much more efficient way of managing the life cycle of data and naturally keeping the data footprint smaller, because you're keeping what's only meant and only has high business value for the organization. Now, encryption, anonymization, tokenization, pseudonymization are all protection techniques. So really, Greg, how does that fit into decarbonization? Well, the amount of compute that is used by many different technologies around encryption and around tokenization are very computationally intense, right? So that means those efforts, and look, we're all addicted to data, right? We all are looking to gain advantage from our data, right? Gain competitive advantage, innovate, really look for a leg up over our competitors. Our ability from a voltage standpoint to use far less compute, be much more efficient in terms of how we protect information, is one of the differentiators we have inside of our portfolio. And our format preserving encryption, which is the NIST standard, is one of those sets of technologies, protection technologies, that is far more efficient than the competitors. Now, our Voltage Fusion portfolio really is built around a data security platform, right? So we've talked about tokenization, data protection, data discovery, really understanding information, being able to apply lifecycle controls to data so the problem is mitigated going forward. Understanding access governance and being able to better understand and remediate permissions and security around data that has sprawled across the organization really helps you better understand and wrangle that data so that you can protect it going forward. And you're protecting what matters most, and the things that are redundant, out of date, and trivial, we can help in terms of data disposition. Now, core use cases inside this portfolio, when we look at the key conversations we're having with customers, around privacy compliance, around data lifecycle management, test data management. A lot of organizations are really leveraging cloud analytics platforms and really protecting data as it goes into those cloud analytics platforms, really supporting secure data analytics and secure information sharing. So organizations, data analysts are able to analyze data, be able to analyze it with referential integrity, but the private data, the sensitive information within those environments is anonymized. Now, a couple things in closing. We're really starting to see a lot of organizations come to us and look for ways in which we can help them contribute to their ESG strategy, to their environmentally friendly strategies or carbon friendly strategies. We've got a local government in Europe that's using our technology, and almost immediately as they started to retire applications, saw obviously lower energy consumption. CO2 emissions went down just from the number of physical servers and SAN switches and storage platforms that they were able to reduce, just by us helping them better understand their information and helping them decommission and really consolidate their environment and consolidate the data within it. And with that, I will bring this to a close.